Hey everybody, Mikeycat Outdoors here. So what are we doing today? Well, it's Memorial Day weekend. By the time you see this, it'll be a few weeks out. But I recently got in a few down quilts that are budget friendly, and basically got them just try them out and probably pass them down to my daughter at some point. But they're affordable. I'll eventually run them through their paces and see how they perform over different types of weather. But so far, it seems to look pretty encouraging. So, hang tight, man. Let's check it out. Okay, so what I have here is a 40-degree hang tight hot foot top quilt. So you can see it's like aluminized on the inside. Kind of reminds me of those Columbia jackets. They have the little micro dots on there. So that helps in theory to radiate some of the heat back to your body. Quilt itself is basically, it's a sewn through design, so it doesn't have true baffles like some of the pricier ones out there. So for a 40-degree top quilt and under quilt set, probably fine. The 20-degree ones, once it gets colder, that'll be a true test. I've seen a few people online have had these. Rob Pelton and some other guys out there did a couple of reviews online, and you know, they said at least the 20-degree one would work down to 30 degrees. They hadn't really tested it too much below that, but once you get down to those colder temperatures, if you don't have the baffle, it kind of makes a vertical wall inside the like down channels and stuff in the quilt. You just have like a just a little pinch point there where your heat could escape. So like I said, when it gets colder out, I'll have to try the 20-degree set. So these quilts, the top quilt has an actual sewn in foot box, and it's pretty roomy. Didn't have any problems keeping my feet warm, or you know, any problems with wiggle room or anything in there last night. Seemed to do the job pretty well. This morning, a lot of crosswinds coming through, and the crosswinds were kind of taking my heat away from me a little bit. It's not that cold out. It was probably like 60, 70 or so overnight. So this kept me adequately warm. Actually, at first I was kind of hot in this thing, but as the night cooled off a little more, you know, I was comfortable with it. But this morning with crosswinds and stuff, it stole my heat a little bit, which with any quilt, unless you got something that's, you know, that thick, it's the wind is gonna whip your heat away from you. So underneath my hammock, I got a double layer ridge runner here, and I just put in a Thermarest ridge rest solid pad. So that kind of helped with the wind on my underside, although the way it was coming in from the foot area, it was basically just whipping through that channel underneath and kind of stealing some of my underheat too. So, you know, it just was what it was. If I had a tarp up, I probably wouldn't have had as much of a problem with that. So whenever you get into a windy condition, if you want to keep your heat with you with any type of quilting system or padding system you have, you probably just want to set a tarp such that it'll catch that prevailing wind direction and stop it from, you know, whipping all your heat away from you. So these quilts here seem like they're pretty well made. From my understanding, when people on hammock forums and elsewhere have talked a little bit about them, it sounds like that it's kind of similar to the DIY top quilt under quilt set that you can make out of Costco quilts. And I guess I've heard, I don't have a Costco membership, but I've heard they had these black diamond quilts for a while, and now they might have a different brand or something. But they were real inexpensive 700 fill down quilts you could buy them relatively cheap now, like 30 bucks or something, 20 bucks, whatever. I've seen similar things like Eddie Bauer and whatnot online for like 50 or 60 bucks. So just give you a price range of what, you know, the basic materials would come from. But what you do is you would basically, like on your underquilt, you'd rip it a little narrower, and then you would like extend on the end or whatever. And I guess with these top quilts, you might do the same. You might taper it a little bit and then add a little bit of that material back to make the foot box. But there's plans out there. The Ultimate Hang 2 book that I reviewed, I have a video on it. There's some instructions, I think, if I remember right, in that book, and there's stuff online for how to make your own. But for those of us that don't have a sewing machine right at bay and not a lot of practice on them, this is a really good alternative option. So I think he's just sourced a lot of his down material from already made quilts. I know others have mentioned, you know, that they had theirs and they could see, you know, where the old stitching had been taken out carefully, and then where new stitching was applied elsewhere to make the quilt into what form it is. And it's kind of ingenious. I know the underquilt that I had, one of the 20 degrees, it basically had like an extra liner of material in there on top of the quilt on the inside. So it basically doubled up the material, insulation content and such. So I'll be curious when I get the top quilt how that one's going to compare. I've kind of heard from people online that they're kind of doubled up. Check out the construction here. I said, you can see you've got all these sewn through, and inside you got all those nice pretty micro dots. It's like Disco City in there, man. But you can see the orange thread there, so it definitely goes all the way through. There's enough down in here to keep you warm. It's 700 fill, and that's not exactly the highest loft rating, but it's not bad. I mean, considering a lot of cheap down coats are 650 fill. So you can see right there, upside down, the hang tight logo that he stitched into every quilt. And he's got a little bit of grosgrain material here sewed on right where the quilt starts to spread out. Like I say, it made a nice roomy foot box there, and you know, this thing kept me warm, except for the winds, which I think that would happen with any quilt. But material wise, it's not too bad. Like I said, this material is stitched through, and you can see that in here. You've got the orange stitching coming through, so you don't have a true baffle system in these. But you know, for warm weather camping, that's really not going to be a problem for you. It's going to keep you adequately warm for what you need. You know, for summer nights, definitely. Shoulder season, yeah, you know, depending on temperatures, this probably gets you pretty well, I would say, to 50. When you get down to 40, yeah, you know, it depends if you're at survival rating or comfort rating on a lot of these. But it is what it is. It's not a bad quilt for getting into something, you know, hammock camping, ground camping, whatever. It's pretty. So yeah, I'm back on my phone because my regular camera battery died. But yeah, these are not bad quilts. So a hot foot 40 degree top quilt runs $83, which that's not too bad for a top quilt. Hammock gear starting off for 40 degree, you're talking probably about $160, $170. Now hammock gear is a little better quality. They do have actual baffles and everything. You know, you can get a zippered foot box, you can get a sewn foot box, you know, you have other options. But their economy line, which is usually what I get, is a really good bargain too. But compared to them, if you want to go even cheaper end on the price point range, these hot foot and heat seeker quilts from Hang Tight shop, definitely a very affordable option out there for people just getting into hammock camping or somebody that's got a tighter budget. Now there's one in the other hammock just kind of laying there. My daughter was going to come out and camp last night, and she fell asleep indoors, so she chickened out. But we were out bike riding yesterday, so we got sufficiently tired, and she got to sleep. She didn't want to wake up, so in a way I don't blame her. But yeah, it's a beautiful orange color. They also have the 40-degree quilts in blue. Each one of these do come with a stuff sack, and that just gives you a rough idea of the size. You know, cell phone case, one of these little lights, thing of mace, you know, little drink bottle, stuff like that. Just gives you a rough idea of how big this is. Packs down really well compared to synthetics, so that's one beautiful thing about down quilts. Now I'm not 100% sure, but if I were a guessing man, I would say that's probably not hydrophobic down in there. Some down they treat with special chemicals to make it repel water a bit more. And given the price point of this, I would suspect that it's probably just regular down. As far as, you know, RDS, Responsible Down Society or whatever that's called, I haven't seen any info on this, but, you know, I'm probably going to venture a guess they ain't just plucking them off live birds or anything, but, you know, wherever Costco and stuff gets their quilt material from, yeah, it would probably be the place you'd want to look if you're really interested, you know, in terms of environmentalism or something. But, yeah, for what it is, it's not a bad product. The underquilt and top quilts, if you buy them as a set, I think it was about $180-ish maybe for the set of underquilt and top quilt for 40 degrees, and I think it was like $228, $230, somewhere in that range. I'll try to find the numbers and post them up for the 20 degree set, the heat seeker. And like I said, that's really affordable compared to other options out there. Hammock Gear is probably the next affordable option, but all their quilts are going to start about $160, $170 just for one quilt. Trying to get two of them, you're going to be spending over $300 just to get a set. And when you go to some of the other companies out there, Local Libre, you know, I got the Operator Series 50-degree quilts. You're talking at least $300, $350 for a set of two of those. And then their, you know, colder temperature ones are going to be even more. You've got UCQ. Let's see. You've got Enlightened Equipment. A couple other vendors out there that, you know, you try to buy a quilt from them, and just one quilt is going to be $300. So you can see when you start getting to like higher fill powers, lighter outer shell materials and stuff to keep the weight down for people that are doing like long distance through hikes and stuff where every ounce counts, you're going to spend more for that higher quality material. So it really depends on your needs. And if you're just an occasional weekend warrior, or you're somebody who doesn't have a whole lot to spend, or you want something for your kid that isn't going to be a big investment, you know, like, hey, I ripped a hole in it or whatever, you know, you don't feel as bad about giving it to them. You know, these are a pretty good option for somebody, you know, with those types of, you know, sets of criteria. And I said they're an affordable option. They seem like they're well made, and I think they'll last a long time. And since Steve is kind of starting off with this, I can only imagine in time, you know, if he keeps this business going for, say, a decade or so, at some point he might get other, you know, sources of material, make improvements and other things to his product line, you know, and it could be the next, you know, Hammock Gear type company out there. That's the beauty of people that start the small businesses, cottage industries, you know, in their home, in their garage, stuff like that. You're going to get a lot of attention to detail and quality because, you know, that's kind of the bread and butter livelihood right there. And it's not, you know, a huge shop. So, you know, they're going to be a little more responsive to you a lot of times. Whenever you've got emails or questions, they're going to get back to you. Bigger shops, you're going to be more of a number. So, I mean, you'll still get customer service at the bigger shops. I mean, don't get me wrong on that, but, you know, it'll just be a little different experience. Well, everybody, if you like what you've seen, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and I'll catch you again in the outdoors. As always, thanks for watching.